Hi, so I'm Megan. I was going to present some slides, but I thought, no, everyone is sick of PowerPoint by this stage. So I thought I'd just get up and chat with you guys. So I've been at Hays-McIntyre for about 1 year and 3 months now, and it has been an adventure. I've already got a mic. We're good. They've already picked up the swearing. We're good. And yeah, as I said, it's been an adventure kind of stepping into an accountancy firm. My background is in consultancy, payment card security, really fun, thralling stuff like that. So to step into a firm, I was quite reassured with the way that they'd set things up. So, you know, we're a little bit ahead of the game in that we're in the private cloud. We've got some really good boundaries and some good practices. And again, you're dealing with accountants who aren't really that kind of frivolous with data. They're not going to be standing on the rooftop, you know, sharing data everywhere. So we had some good practices inherent within the organisation. However, what I kind of noticed from the start was there was a real lack of visibility as to what people were actually doing. And that also ties in with the fact that we've got some pretty inefficient business processes. And so you can talk to your people and say, hey, what are you doing in this particular instance? And they will say, we do X, Y, Z. And then you actually look at their behaviours and you look at their actions and you go, that's not happening. You know, you'll get an alert and they've shared a document through some weird and wacky, wonderful free portal, or they've done something else and you're just kind of like, but hang on, that wasn't the process that you said that you were following. You know, are you aware of the risks? All these sorts of things. And there was a real disconnect between IT, data security, cyber security, and all these sorts of things. And I was kind of sat there going, how do I fix this? How do I actually understand user behavior, user activities, and then create some policies and some awareness training, some education to support people doing the right thing? And I think it was a conversation that I had with Connor, and he mentioned SensorNet. And so we started having a conversation with Jasper and actually looking at the power of something like the SensorNet tool to see what we can actually see within our environment. When I first started looking at it, I'm not going to lie, there was a little bit of a big brother scary moment. I was like, okay, we're getting a little bit perverse here. Like, you can see every single activity that someone's doing on their laptop. And then the kind of, you know, work mode kicked in, and I had to really reconcile the point that it's not about controlling what people are doing. It's actually looking at what they're doing so that we can educate users to do the right thing. Because my role not automatically, should be about preventing any of our staff from having to deal with the consequences of a data breach or a cyber attack because they've clicked on something or they've gone to the wrong website, all these sorts of things. So it's my job to really look at what our tooling is that supports our staff doing this, because I'm not an accountant. They get to do all that wonderful stuff. I have to make data security and cyber security as easy for them as possible. So you introduce something like SensorNet, where you can get down to the actual action level. So you can say, cool, if you want to use your personal email because, you know, you work 24 hours a day and we really love that, you're allowed to use your personal email, but we're going to limit the types of actions you take within your personal email while you're on your work laptop. So you're not going to be able to upload certain files, or, you know, it's going to raise an alert on their screen to say, are you sure you want to do this within your personal email? All that sort of stuff. So it's not, again, about controlling them or big brothering them and watching them 24/7. It's about actually understanding what people are doing so we can give that guidance. Another great thing that it wasn't a great thing, but another thing we encountered was the use of free PDF tools. So all of our lovely little trainees, because we have 1 million of them, were starting to use this particular PDF tool. And I was kind of like, well, you know, what are they doing? We have Adobe, what's going on? And it was just a really quick conversation with a couple of them to say, well, actually, they didn't have the right Adobe licenses. And so I was like, cool, that's an operational issue. That's not a them issue. That's an us issue as an IT department, as a business. We're, again, not tooling our staff with the right things so that they can do their job. So there's been a few little wonderful things like that. There's also been a few things that we've discovered where we've needed to kind of give people that better guidance around not using things like Discord or Netflix, you know, like monitoring what actually is acceptable use, and then giving people, again, that guidance to say, okay, it's cool, you know, do work, you do travel, all these sorts of things. So if you're traveling abroad, it's really not very fair that we say, right, you need to take a personal device, you need to take this laptop, you need to take all this sort of stuff. So we're going to allow you to use Netflix and things like that. But if you're watching 42 hours of Netflix, we might need to have a little word. But being able to see what people are actually doing then allows us to create those policies. But like I said, the big thing that we're kind of learning is around the business processes. So if we've got clients that are, really steadfast in saying we only want to deal with this particular tool, which might be, again, some free share system that they use. We want to navigate them away from that. So how are we supporting our staff in those conversations with our clients? Are there clients that actually we're going to put our hands up and say, look, if the client insists that they have to use this particular tool to share information with us, that we're going to allow them to do that. So we need to make sure that our policies aren't really prohibitive that say, no one can do this, all that sort of stuff. And without something like SenseNet that actually shows this, we're not going to get that information from staff, because people are automatically going to be on the back foot when someone from information security comes up and says, so what are you doing over here with this? They're going to get very nervous. And a lot of that time, we want to kind of remove that nervousness away from their interactions with us as well. So making sure that we're a little bit friendlier than maybe they've traditionally been used to dealing with when it comes to information security and cyber security. Making sure that they can ask us questions even if it's not related to work, because their personal behaviours also impact their work life. So their behaviours when it comes to password security, again, the types of websites and systems that they use in their personal life will impact their behaviours at work. So SenseNet for us has really given insight into what they're doing. It allows us to be a little bit more flexible with web filtering as well, which has been a really great side for us. So we're going to be able to move away from a bit of an archaic system that we've been using to give a little bit more freedom, and it'll actually support us doing things like always on VPN, wonderful things like that that are going to make the user experience when it comes to security and all that sort of stuff a little bit easier, because things are a little bit clunky at the minute. But yes, that's kind of us in a nutshell at Hayes-McIntyre. So I don't know if anyone has any questions based on that. Yes, hello.
So apologies, this is not going to be technical.
Yeah.
So I've been reading a lot in Gartner about people-led security, and actually it's the whole perception of cybersecurity and making it easier for them to be more secure.
Yes.
How did you manage because even as a vendor, the fact that they can watch everything, we can watch everything people do, is creepy.
Yes.
How do you manage that perception within the business so that you don't suddenly become someone you're users trying to work around?
Yeah, a lot of it is the transparency side of things. There's no surprises. I don't do surprises with any of my staff. So if we're introducing a new tool, it's about saying, look, we have access to this. We don't have access to XYZ though. Or we're choosing not to monitor this, but we have it running in the background in case there is a security breach so that we can look at those logs. But it's not something that we're actively looking to find issues. A lot of it comes down to how you deal with things when things do actually go wrong. That's probably been the biggest lesson that I've taken from previous roles as well. I've seen grown men cry in boardrooms because of data breaches. It's not fun as much, well, sometimes it can be fun, but it's not usually something that you want to encourage. And so if someone, especially a junior member of your staff, does something wrong, going to them and having that conversation with them and actually saying, hey, did you know that this is the consequence of doing X, Y, Z? More often than not, they have no clue. They're just trying to do their job. They're trying to do it as quickly as possible because they've got some manager saying, we've got to get this done right now, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And it's, potentially their first real job, all these sorts of things, or they're studying as well. There's lots of conflicts for them. So really being transparent with them. And again, moving away from that where, we're controlling you, we're trying to do this to stop you from doing this. It's about going, we're trying to understand what you get faced with in your day-to-day job. So I don't deal with clients, so I don't know the kind of questions or pressures you might be getting from the client base to say, well, actually, I don't want to use this portal, I want to use this system. And because, we're trying to be trusted advisors and we're trying to make the clients happy all the time, sometimes they might feel the pressure to bend to that. So how do I support my staff to say, well, actually, if you get a client that's very stuck in the mud with their ways, I'm happy to have a conversation with them. I'm here to support my staff, not just give them rules and regulations to follow.
Is there a certain point though where you're like, come on, I've spoken to you about 7 times. How would you how do you handle that?
So usually there's an escalation path. So my CIO tends to be bad cop because he enjoys that. Whereas I will try and look at behaviours, I will try and look at the process side and engage in those conversations. But again, having some sort of formalised process or policy around disciplinary actions, that's something that we're having to bring in now, which again puts people's backs up because they've had the freedom to do the wrong thing for the last however many years, and here I come a year and a half in and I'm like, oh sorry, there are rules, guys. So there is going to be friction. There is always going to be friction, so understanding that and accepting that I think is a really key part, and making sure again that when things go wrong, it's not about blaming someone straight away. I think that having that culture within your firm where if something goes wrong, people all chip in to help out is really, really super important. And that's one thing that I was quite pleasantly surprised with. We did have an incident before I started that is still talked about, which is quite funny. But even our managing partner actually called the people involved with that. And the first question was, are you okay? You know, are you getting the support from IT, from HR? Like there was that kind of duty of care for the individual as opposed to just going, you screwed up, your head's on the chopping block. Because more often than not, we've all been in a situation where we've made a mistake. We've done the wrong thing. We might be able to recover from that a little bit quicker because of our knowledge or our, skill set. But other people out there that are within our firm don't have that same skill set.
How do those policies extend onto mobile devices?
Oh, it's the pain of my existence. This is a conversation or a fight that I have quite regularly within our firm because they want people to use BYOD, and I hate BYOD. I'm just like, why are we allowing people to access corporate data on a personal device that we have no control over? We can, set controls, but more often than not, people can circumvent them. So we tend to be quite hardline with our conditional access policies. So if the device isn't meeting XYZ, it's not getting access to our systems, and kind of managing it from that way. So staff are informed as to what they need to be doing, and then if they don't meet it, they don't have access. End of. So yeah, with the corporate phones that we provide, we can control it a lot more. As probably most people are aware, if you've got your partners within the firm, they might like to do whatever they want with those devices and you're limited as to what you can do. So again, we can set those controls. And there's, I suppose, much more conversations happening with the partners as well. So our partnership we're quite lucky. The majority of them are far more aware around cybersecurity and information security now, so they tend to take it a little bit more seriously. There's still a few who just kind of throw caution to the wind, but the majority of them are getting on board because, again, we've got our CIO who's playing bad cop, I come in and play nice cop, and that tends to work quite well.
I've got another, I'm really sorry. You talk a lot about like a business approach to it, so is the role that cybersecurity plays in the business really dependent on how the business responds to it and how senior leadership prioritise it?
100%, yeah.
So have you worked in a firm where there hasn't necessarily been that same like prioritisation? Or does that tend to be quite common, like most people get the fact that it is important now?
I think it is the opposite. I think a lot of firms just kind of go, IT does its thing. It's IT's responsibility. Like they control everything so they can keep all the bad guys out. And it's much more about having the conversations around, it's not about not happening, it's about when it happens. It will happen at some point. The magnitude of that event is then up to us. We can control that by, the security tools that we put in place. Having something like SenseNet where you're actually able to see what the action was, when that exact action happened, all of that sort of stuff. The firm has been on a big journey. So prior to me starting, IT was kept very segregated from the rest of the business. IT just works the magic in the corner. No one knew what it was. No one touched it. And it was very ring fenced. So again, that transparency side of things. So there was a lot of work that was being done that was great, but the firm actually had no idea. They have no idea that we deal with X number of phishing attacks every day. They don't know what happens when, someone clicks on something and what we have to do to then stop that from happening. So actually talking to people about it and going, when you do this wrong, this is what happens to me, has been quite instrumental. So, when they lose a laptop at the pub after work on a Friday, what does that mean for us? What do we then have to go through? And again, it's not about telling them off. It's just about making them aware, because they've never had the exposure that we've had to things like information and cybersecurity. So they just have no clue. They just know numbers, which is great. And I'm really glad that they do that, because that's not my bag. And so, yeah, it's about that real transparency and having those tough conversations, again, with your leadership teams and your management team. The buck stops with them as well. So if something goes really, really wrong, they're the ones that are going to, have to face up to the clients. It's not me that's going to be having conversations with our long-standing clients. It's going to be the managing partner. It's going to be, everyone that's been at the firm for 20 plus years. They're the ones that are going to be facing up to the people that they have trusted to say, oh, sorry, we lost all your data, or something horrific like that. So they're kind of more aware of that now. So my role has been much more around helping them to understand what the real risk is within our firm as well. So for us, we get a lot of compromised client accounts. So we get random emails coming in, and luckily, because we've done the education piece, our staff will email us about anything, and they'll just be like, this just doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is, but I'm unsure. So we have that relationship now, and it's taken a good year for me to build that with them. But it's an investment that I would recommend everyone does. So, yeah. Any other?
Thank you.
Sorry,
I was just going to ask, obviously, as James mentioned, a big part of my job is bringing the message of marketing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just curious, from a customer point of view,
Mm-hmm.
implementing that solution, what was implementing this solution like? And obviously, you heard, you liked the idea of it, you liked the solution,
Yeah.
but what was it like actually implementing sentiment?
Oh, it was really smooth. It was the user experience there was no impact to any single user. Well, we had one hiccup where I think there was probably about a 2-minute outage, and so everyone got a nice red screen saying access denied, which was a little bit of fun. But that was for a very, very short period of time. Otherwise, everything else has been really smooth sailing for us. The guys have been on hand 24/7 pretty much to help us with anything. Again, the hiccups that we've experienced have been more from our side of things and SensorNet's side of things. And it's just really about making sure that when you're rolling it out, you've really understood what the web filtering side of things is. I think that was the biggest thing, because you can just sit and let the CASB side of things. So we use the web filtering in CASB. CASB can just sit in the corner and collect all of its data, and then you can kind of tweak and tailor it as you need. But the web filtering, getting that right at the start is really pivotal. So making sure that your managing partners are aware of what you do want to block and what you don't want to block and why, and then having a really nice, well thought out process to make sure that the user experience is really seamless, so that they're not just kind of reporting something and going into the Ethernet. What are you doing within IT? Who's responsible for then actually, categorizing that particular website, all that sort of stuff. And again, that's our responsibility as opposed to SensorNet. So from the SensorNet side of things, it's been great.
Anyone else have any more questions about it?
The only question I want to ask is how do you find the support from SensorNet?
Really good. Technologica, dodging, I'm joking. It's been really good. They've been able to kind of answer all of my stupid questions, and I've not felt stupid asking them, which is hats off to you guys. Thank you. But yeah, it's been outstanding, and we've had some really, really frustrating suppliers recently, long-standing relationships that have kind of fallen apart completely. So to have a new vendor, you kind of expect that when you start the sales process that it's all very intense and everyone's on board, but the level of support hasn't dropped since we started, which was really, really good. So once the go live has gone live, we've still been able to get in touch with people. We've not felt alone in any moment when dealing with things.
Any more?
How did you find the initial discovery and prioritization when the solution went live? How long would you say from kicking off to being like, oh, I kind of feel comfortable now?
That process is quite quick, but the volume of data that you have to go through, yeah, be prepared. It's going to take you a good 6 months to really kind of go through at an action level and look at everything and kind of understand the nuances. Because of the way that our business is, you've got your peaks and troughs, as with any business. And so what actions people are performing one month might actually be different to the next month. So really giving yourself a little bit of grace to look at everything. Don't rush that part. That will be the best thing. And configuring those reports so you can get them sent to you automatically, on an hourly basis if you're really crazy, or a weekly weekly basis, looking at the top risks that are performed. That's probably my best advice. But that process of getting comfortable with the platform was quite easy. It's quite user-friendly. But yeah, trawling through all the data that you then have. Yes, because you can go to the level of actually seeing the messages that are written. So whether that's Teams, LinkedIn, all that sort of stuff. So again, that's some conversations that you probably want to have with your management team to decide at what level you want to be able to have access to data. Again, it's not something that I look at regularly. It's there if I need to monitor it, or if something occurs, I know that I've got a subset of data that I can investigate.
Have you ever had like sort of management think, oh, I'm really trying to get rid of this person, I want to see their Teams messages,
Not yet.
calls.
Not yet.
That's scary to be able to get to that level of detail. Exactly,
and that's something that I kind of pushed back against as to what visibility we have on within the platform, because in theory, anyone in IT at a certain point actually had access to the SenseNet platform, and I went, well, hey, we've got to restrict this quite quickly. So how do you then allow your, say for example, your IT service desk to do any support for the users whilst also maintaining security and confidentiality within that platform? And so we're quite a small team. So the service desk guys work very, very closely with the infrastructure guys, and the infrastructure guys are the ones that have access along with the information security team. So if anyone was to request any data like that, it would have to go through our people director as well as the CIO. And so there are some controls in place. If they wanted to investigate that, they could. But again, that would then fall down to the disciplinary process and policy to kind of go, should we actually be doing this? And I will always question the should we actually be doing this? Because there is that level of, even though it's a work platform, and yes, we all know that we shouldn't say, you know, everything, it should be corporate 24/7. People, we're all human. We live our lives online now. We live our lives at work. So there are going to be personal messages in there, and you might catch things that you actually don't want to know as well. So it's about making sure that only the right people have instant access to that system, and then that there is that process that actually questions why someone wants access to it, and if as a business we want to go down that avenue.
Anyone else?
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, guys.